So, hi, I'm Andrew Rue Rivera. I'm sitting with Brandon Guerrero. Brandon, show the people your eyes.
Hi, those are my eyes.
And we wanted to do like a little Wanda Maximoff or WandaVision. I'm already messing up. WandaVision preview for the folks at home because we realized that we're very excited about the show. We want any excuse to talk about it, but we realize that a lot of people don't really know what it is. A lot of casual viewers who are fans of the MCU have no idea what's going on. We also have no idea what's going on, but hoping to provide a little bit of insight. And yeah, that's why we decided to put together this little video for the show that comes out this Friday, January 15th. And it'll be airing every Friday until sometime in March. And so I guess that moves us on to our next point, which is uh, what is WandaVision? And before we do that, I guess what might be important is to catch people up on the MCU in general. So the last thing we saw was spoiler alert: Iron Man is toast.
Rip,
He's
rest,
dead.
many pieces.
Yeah, he's gone. And is the last MCU movie to officially come out Spider-Man: Far From Home?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, yeah. Because Black Widow counts as like prequel
and Black
land.
Widow hasn't really come out yet. We don't really know what's going on with Black Widow. So I
Yeah,
guess Spider-Man: Far From Home is one of the last movies, if not the last movie. Um, Tony Stark is dead. You know, the Captain America is super old, and Loki's escaped into some version of the time realm. The Falcon is now going to be the new Captain America, and there's a bunch of shit. But one of the results of Avengers Endgame is that the Vision was murked not only once, but then Thanos reversed time after Wanda had to kill him with her bare hands and then killed him again. I'm going to bring up that point later. But I think we should just mention very quickly then the history of Wanda and Vision. Wanda and her brother were created with Loki's scepter. They volunteered for experiments. They were then called miracles because we can use the term mutants. I think we're going to get a little mutant talk. We'll get into that later.
well,
Um, but uh, but yeah, so we first see Wanda and her brother Quicksilver, who dies in Ultron, and at the end, the post-credit scene of Captain America: The Winter Soldier. And it's just a brief moment where you see them with their powers. They're very cool. Then we see them in Ultron, where they're working for Baron von Strucker, who is a evil scientist, and he creates these two superpowered beings. Um, Wanda and Quicksilver sign up for this little experimentation process because they're in the middle of a war on Sokovia where they're from, and then they want to fight for their country and their people, and they are upset with Tony Stark because his weapons are not helping them. They're helping the opposition in the war. Their parents died as a result of Tony Stark's weapons, I believe, is the whole thing. And there is no question in their minds who the bad guy is on that front. So they sign up for this, and they're just gun ho on killing the Avengers until they realize that the person that they've linked up with, Ultron, is not trying to make a better world. He's trying to erase the world. As a result of his actions, Quicksilver is dead. The Vision is created through Jarvis, some sort of kind of thing, even though they're not the same. And it is proven that the Vision is pure of heart, or at least a quality being, because he can lift Thor's hammer. Uh, and then slowly after that, they start developing a relationship. They have a friendship in Civil War. Vision has some sort of protective feelings for Wanda. It's not creepy because he's technically younger than Wanda. um,
like 2 years old.
he's like 2 years old, uh, and then yeah, that really doesn't blossom into anything. In Civil War, there is this moment where she gets hurt, and Vision goes to help her because he starts to feel these feelings, of course, and in an attempt to stop uh, an attempt to stop Falcon in his pursuit of Iron Man and them. He shoots Rhodey out the sky. Rhodey gets paralyzed, um, and then I mean that. Then he realizes as he's talking to Iron Man something's wrong with him, and then of course in the next film, all these feelings have, I guess, built up to this relationship. You know, he cares about her, she cares about him. In the beginning of Infinity War, I believe it is, they they're questioning whether or not their relationship works. They both agree that it does. They get attacked, and then we find out all our suspicions are confirmed. I guess Vision's got the Mind Stone in his head. Thanos wants the Mind Stone. Get back to this long-winded explanation on why he gets killed. So that's it. That's if that made any sense at all.
Washed story of Vision and
Huh?
Wanda. The washed story of Vision and Wanda.
Yeah, it's a very I made that longer than I needed to, but you know, what are you gonna do? So then what is WandaVision? WandaVision is a 30-minute 9 episode, it seems right now. Sitcom kind of. I mean, I don't know if it's a sitcom, but it has sitcom air about it. The synopsis reads Marvel Studios' WandaVision blends the style of classic sitcoms with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, in which Wanda Maximoff, Elizabeth Olsen, Jesus, and Vision, Paul Bettany, two superpowered beings living their ideal suburban lives, begin to suspect that everything is not as it seems. That's the synopsis. Um, that's the premise. And then as far as who's in it, Elizabeth Olsen, Paul Bettany, Kat Dennings, who plays Darcy Lewis, who we haven't seen since Thor: The Dark World in 2013. She's had 7 years. I wonder if she was blipped. You know, I don't know if she disappeared and came back. She in the last movies, she wasn't too into like science and stuff like that. I hope she's not a throwaway character. It says she's in 7 episodes. Um, I don't know what they've got planned for her, but I'm very excited. I think she's a very talented actress.
She's gonna
Uh,
be a wild card, I think, in that one. She
yeah,
just yeah, we haven't seen her in much since actually. So
yeah. I tell you who else is going to be a wild card. The God, Catherine Hahn, coming
yes,
in hot. I
yes,
I love Catherine Hahn. Uh, brilliant, brilliant, brilliant actor. Uh, just comedy, drama, could
she
do
does it all.
everything. Just awesome. I'm very excited to see Catherine's range in this. Randall Park is back as Jimmy Woo, who we haven't seen since Ant-Man and the Wasp.
So much good.
And Randall Park is a fucking beast. Like, guy's a talent. I actually saw Always Be My Maybe not too long ago.
Mm.
Your man's was rapping, doing his thing.
It's great, man. That's Asian Jim.
That's Asian Jim. Oh yeah, that's Asian Jim. That's Jim. And then other people of notes are Teyana Paris, who plays Monica Rambeau, who, if you don't know, is the daughter of Captain Marvel's best friend in the first film. And so technically, since there's been a jump, Captain Marvel was in the 90s. Monica is an adult at this point. Monica is also later on in the comics a Captain Marvel herself. And then other people that are worthy of mentioning, Fred Melamed is there as Dr. Hart. He's only listed in 1 episode, but he's been on stuff like New Girl. He's been on like a ton of shit. He's been around forever. Um, there is Deborah Jo Rupp, who plays Kitty on that 70s show. And I'm wondering,
So great.
yeah, I'm wondering, as WandaVision seems to have like a decade, like 50s style, 60s style, 70s styles, if they're going to put her in the 70s episode. And then I'm sure there are other people of note whose names I do not recognize, and so I'd apologize for that. But I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Azula. Gray Griffin has lent her voice to this show. So if you're a fan of Last Airbender, you're getting some of that. And she specifically said her voice. I wonder if we're gonna get her physical performance as well. Not that a voice isn't a physical performance, because I feel like they do put their physicality into it, but you know what I mean. Um, Yeah, that's the cast. Great cast. Um, and I guess we're gonna jump from this to, because I've been talking a lot. I want you to do some talking. You just finished the Vision comic,
I did.
but I guess the next question we were looking at was why should anybody be excited about this? Why are you excited about it?
Well, because why not? Honestly, I've been a fan of the MCU since like forever, since I can remember watching movies. I guess.
That's such a like, hey, you want to try weed? And I couldn't think of a reason not to.
I
Like,
mean, yeah, yeah. So it's one of those things, like I've been watching these movies for so long,
yeah,
shows, even the Netflix shows. Like it's just the whole universe has been crafted so well, in my opinion. It does have its flaws, but at the end of it,
yo,
this is the
talk.
most successful.
It has its flaws, you said? Say that to Edward Norton's face, you coward.
I will, but I'm afraid he doesn't like my people. Maybe I don't know.
Oh no.
But it's honestly, it's just uh, these this material's just always been a part of my life. So to
Yeah.
watch it is just kind of a given.
Hmm.
But specifically, Wanda and Vision as a show that's going to be tailored to the sitcom mesh with just whatever monstrosity they want to create this
Yeah.
genre as. I think it's great. It's creative. They have two of the strongest characters in Marvel,
Hmm.
and I want to see how they turn this into a story that has not really much to do with that.
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head in one aspect that not I don't think a lot of people are talking about. Um, obviously on one side of that conversation, but people forget like Vision is not a fucking punk. Like he's he's been bringing it, and like when you see him in Ultron kicking ass, when like and not only in just like strength, the dude can fly. He can
Yeah.
you can lose all form and go right through you. He can shoot a fucking beam out of his skull. He's like crazy dookie strong, so there are reasons to like in terms of a battle, and two big battle sequences have been teased by Paul Bettany. uh we're talking about action. You might see some real fucking action. Let's not forget that Wanda, when she comes back to from the snap, when she comes back at the end of Endgame, she starts busting Thanos' ass
Emo.
pretty quickly and easily. And she says, you took everything from me. He says, I don't know who you are. She says, you will. And I think like it was a cool moment for everybody, but for comics fans that have been waiting to see the Scarlet Witch, which I do think we're going to see in this show, but probably one of the strongest characters in the entire Marvel universe. And let's talk about the MCU. Probably the strongest in the MCU at this point. She was even Captain Marvel was struggling with Thanos to an extent. Like she was kicking ass. Don't get me wrong, but Wanda, if not for Thanos deciding he was going to bomb his own army, was going to maybe rip him in half.
Yeah, She drew first blood,
Yeah,
and that makes her the best. That's it. Um, yeah, like I agree. I mean, they're just so strong in the comic books, and
mm,
they really have just kind of been on the back seat for the most part in the MCU. And this is really the first time we're seeing them driving the car, and it's going to be great. Like I really do think so, especially because the budget is insane for these shows.
yeah. We were saying earlier. Let's take a look at it again. But it says that they're about for the Mandalorian, Disney's show that just came out like what 2 years ago. Everybody loves Grogu, Baby Yoda. It was $15 million an episode. So that means that on an 8 episode series, like the whole cost was looking about 120 million. They were saying, um, well, it says now it's been rumored that the show will be 8 episodes in length for a feature length similar to 120 million. Yeah. So that's another reason, I guess, why people should be excited. You look at what Disney did with The Mandalorian, and not just what they did in terms of like taking a new character and existing characters, like much like in WandaVision, and enriching them and making the universe richer for it. which is something Marvel has done with its films. Endgame made Thor 2 way more relevant, you know? I like Thor 2 now more because of it. Um, but when you look at what they did with The Mandalorian, the budget allowed them to create something that was so special. And WandaVision is a mini series. So if you're going to invest money into something that's going to go away that you can look at as like a single project, that is going to have effects on the rest of on the next phase of films, then there's a perfectly good reason to believe like they're putting the money behind it. The effects are going to be good. The story is going to be good, you know. And again, after seeing that season finale of Mandalorian with that surprise appearance, for spoilers from Luke Skywalker, I think Disney Plus is totally going for it. I think they're like they're launching haymakers. They, I think Fraser Tharp, who he's a dude who worked at Complex and GQ. He said, Bob Iger saw HBO Max that whole day. He had his finger on the button. He's like, oh yeah, gonna launch this shit. Boom. And then we heard about like 18 castings, like, Disney Day, Disney Investor Days went stupid. And but yeah, I think one of the main reasons, besides the fact that these characters are very strong, besides the fact that they're incredibly nuanced characters that deserve their own story, we'll get into that in a minute, is Disney Plus seems to not be fucking around. And
You're not.
so yeah, and then to talk a little bit more about, I guess, these nuanced characters, um, I think some of the inspiration that's going to be drawn from this, there's a few comics that we should talk about. We'll get to the Vision in a minute, which is behind me here, and you just read it yourself. I think that's going to play a big role in it. But I think, there's plenty of Scarlet Witch comics. There is a nice comic that is Vision and Scarlet Witch, by Bill Mantlo and Rick Leonardi. It's a 4 episode issue miniseries, and it follows their marriage during retirement, which totally kind of tracks in this because Vision is kind of dead. And then, they're not part of the Avengers, but trouble still follows them, which seems to be the case in this. It's set around the time of Halloween. We've seen some cuts, some like Halloween kind of stuff in the trailers, and it's set in the suburbs of New Jersey. So we're getting a lot of this. I think that's going to be a big, a big kind of inspiration for the show. And then I think House of M is going to be another thing where, Wanda has these kind of reality warping, shaping powers. She can create new realities for people. And Professor X was trying to keep her in check, but he couldn't do it anymore. And, Wolverine's like, hey, we got to kill this person. Now, I don't know if there's anybody in the MCU that's going to say that about Wanda. I think she's pretty well contained right now for the most part. But she then in the comic like puts all the superheroes in their own like perfect realities, and when it's revealed, Magneto, of course, sides with the Avengers and the X-Men. The Quicksilver gets killed, and then Scarlet Witch says, "No more mutants," and eviscerates like almost all the mutants in the comic universe. So I think we're gonna get some of that, and then I guess let's come to the Vision by Tom King, Gabriel Hernandez Walta, and Michael Walsh. And you just finished this comic, but I'll just say like something real quick about it, which is, it won an Eisner Award. It's like it's referred to as a 12-issue Shakespearean techno tragedy series. They moved to a suburb in Virginia. They being not Wanda and Vision, but Vision and his wife and son, daughter, and dog that he has created. He wants to live a normal life after a breakup from Wanda. And it's kind of this deranged fantasy of what life could be. And I think ultimately the comic teaches Vision and its audience about humanity and life's preciousness. And I'll let you go on a little bit about it since you just read it. What did you like about it, and how do you think it's going to relate to WandaVision?
Yeah, so what I really liked about it, honestly, was just the fact that it felt so real, which is hard to really think about because Vision isn't a real human. So
That guy.
just seeing that whole story, just him trying to analyze the situation, this tough situation that he's put in because of his family, and having that decision of like, am I doing this for my family or the good of humanity? It's a pretty big thing to deal with, and most people deal with that. So to see that just develop throughout the whole comic, really enjoyed it. It reminded me a lot about I mentioned this before, Superior Iron Man.
Hmm.
Stories like that where you take a core character who's just essentially good and just push them to that edge and test the limitations of humanity. That's what I'm most excited about. So I think they have a lot to do with that.
And
There's so many potential.
it's interesting that you said that, like him kind of having this internal struggle, because we obviously deal with this a lot. But I feel like Vision's whole thing is like he is a robot that is as close to a man that you can get, or a person rather. I don't think it would matter if he was a man or a woman, but he's as close as human as you can get, and he's always trying to understand it. You know, even when uh, Ultron tells him at the end of Age of Ultron, he's like, "They're doomed," you know, and he says, "Yeah, but a thing isn't beautiful because it lasts." You know, it's like he's always got his eye on like understanding. In Civil War, um, he's they're all having a meeting, and he's like, you know, Captain Rogers or whoever, or you know, Mr. Stark does make a point. The number of like superpowered beings since we've come to power, our very presence invites challenge. The number of superpowered beings that have tried to do villainous things have gone up since we've been around. And so I think Rhodes said, "So what? So you think?" Or no, Falcon says, "So you think this is our fault?" And he says, "I'm saying there may be a causality." Like he looks at things, he analyzes them perfectly, but he is still struggling with these human feelings. As we said, he makes a mistake as a robot because he sees Wanda injured at the end of that movie after first saying, you know, he is completely analytical about the situation. So I think it's going to be interesting to kind of see that side of Vision a little bit fleshed out more. And I don't know who Vision and Wanda are kidding themselves. Wanda has not ever had a stable life. She's born into this war. She becomes a miracle. Then, you know, her parents, her brother dies. She starts dating this robot. She loses her accent somehow, um, which I think can be solved by her just like, again, it wasn't that thick of an accent, whatever.
She's one of
Um,
the strongest people on the planet. She can change her accent if she
yeah,
wants.
yeah. Um, and then, and maybe they'll address that. Maybe they'll address like some sort of identity issues that she has. But she has never had a stable being. She loses Vision. And then at the end of Endgame, and I don't know how they're gonna do the whole her losing her mind, but at the end of Endgame, there is a very sweet moment between her and Hawkeye, and he's like, "I wish they could have seen like that we won," and she's like, "They know, you know, they both do." She's like her and Vision, you know, Natasha Romanoff and Vision, and so it seems to me that she's at peace
Hmm.
when Vision passes away. Unfortunately, Tony passes away. Uh, you know, uh, Natasha passes away. She's there for Clint in a way that he can't be there for her. So I wonder what happens between Endgame and this show that is going to make her lose her mind a little bit. And I guess this is the perfect kind of way to get into to predictions. So what do you think is going to happen on the show? I think we're getting 2 episodes this Friday.
Mhm.
What do you think is going to happen? Why do you think it's going to happen? And do you think it'll have, what are the larger effects on the MCU you think it's going to have? And before you say that, I'm sorry, I just want to say that it has been confirmed that Scarlet Witch is, I believe, the second lead in Doctor Strange in the Madness of the Multiverse.
Yep.
And they said it has direct ties to what happens in WandaVision and Spider-Man 3, which Kevin Feige, when was asked about the multiple Spider-Man theory that's going on, he said it's interesting how close they are to what we have planned in terms of their theories. But they also confirmed that Spider-Man 3 has ties to WandaVision. So go ahead, go crazy, get all fan nerd sweaty, and go wild.
Okay, so nerd sweaty to start off the bat. I do think that this is going to be ending in a way that is going to force Scarlet Witch to be bad. I do think she's going to be, for the most part, the villain for that Doctor Strange movie. I think it makes sense. I think it would be a good way to rile up all of the forces. So that's my big theory there is I do think that this is going to be Marvel's way of starting with a bang and with something bad happening in that show that forces her to like really go mad.
Mm.
Not far from redemption mad where she's killing people, but like close enough where they need to bring her back and it's essential.
Mm-hmm.
As far as things I want to see Sparky from the Vision comic.
You want to see that dog?
Yes, because I feel like it just introduces so much just random shit.
Yeah.
And it would be great to see just how they incorporate something like that. It's just really a computer dog. But I want to see him and the family, at least some detail to it. I don't want to see the kids as we did in Vision comic, but I want to see hints of like where they're going or what happened to them. Not much there. Honestly, I really don't know what to expect from this because there's just so much content to go off of. You're talking about two of the strongest characters that ever existed in Marvel. And to start off the bat, yeah, I don't know. I feel like this is just going to be a quest to try something new.
What do you think about there being a place for Wanda after this show? But it's kind of crickets for Vision. Nobody's mentioned Vision after this show. You know, we know that Wanda's going to be in these movies. We have not considered what it means for Vision.
I think he's going to be retconned for a bit. I think they're going to take a break on Vision after this series.
Really? That is, Paul Bettany has been on this MCU shit since Iron Man. So that would be interesting. I think I'm predicting a few things. I'm predicting that Vision is dead. I think this is a totally false reality. I think Wanda is either trapped by somebody, maybe like a Mephisto, who's created a reality for her, or who's helped her create her own reality. Because if you see in the trailer, somebody is trying to break through. The town seems to have a barrier around it. And somebody's trying to break through and they're saying, Wanda, are you in there? Are you okay? And Vision was being taken apart before he was killed by Shuri so that he could exist without the Mind Stone. And when the Mind Stone is ripped from his head, he goes completely pale and falls on the ground. And if you don't know this, in the comics, there is a white gray version of Vision that has no emotion. He has no connection. It destroyed Wanda. It made her crazy depressed. That's why she invented the kids through a deal with Mephisto, or parts of Mephisto. And yeah, he was just completely stoic and emotionless, and Wanda couldn't handle that.
It's like the new ISO update Vision.
No, and it really was, because he was saying like he did it in the comics because his systems weren't running properly, because of his emotions. And we kind of got that a little bit again in Civil War when he's like, I don't know why I'm not on my shit, So I think Vision's cooked, or he is a shell of himself. And Wanda is creating this reality to kind of cope. I just don't know what would set her off to get her at that point. But I think that's as close to an explanation as I can. I think that Randall Park, who worked for S.H.I.E.L.D. or some version of it, and Darcy are there and Monica Rambeau for some reason, and Catherine Hahn, they're there as outside agents that have somehow penetrated it. Very like Truman Show kind of shit going on. And if you remember, Truman Show was Kevin Feige talks about how they met with Dick Van Dyke so they could get like this old school sitcom-y feel. The Truman Show had that. Jim Carrey was surrounded by all these like television characters, and they even had like commercials when they were talking to him. And they said there's going to be commercials on WandaVision, like
That's
sitcom style. You know what I mean? Like those kinds of Nick at Night
mhm.
commercials. So I think Vision's cooked. I think Wanda's trying to cope, or somebody's trapped her, or somebody's testing her reality. Um, there is a moment in the trailer where they kind of realize, her and Vision realize something's wrong, and they say, "This is our home. We have to fight for it." So I don't know if they're fighting the government. I don't know if they're fighting this ultra powered being. I don't know if Wanda thinks she's fighting one group of people, but she's actually fighting another and causing irreparable damage. And maybe that's what you can talk about. Like, maybe that's what you're talking about, where you say like she turns into the bad guy. Maybe it happens completely unwillingly, and it really fucks with her and kind of makes her go a little crazy. Um, I have other predictions. I think I don't know who Paul Bettany is talking about when he says I got to work with an actor on the show, a surprise actor that I've always wanted to work with. I don't know who that is. I don't know what role they would play. I can't imagine it would be small if they got a surprise actor. We saw what they did with Mark Hamill in The Mandalorian. Um, but I will say that Evan Peters is on this show. He plays Quicksilver in the X-Men universe, and he's one of the shining spots of those movies. Um, and I wonder if in the Multiverse of the Madness we're getting Pietro back, or if we get back this version of him. I predict we're going to see some Aaron Taylor Johnson. I know there's no reason for me to believe it, like the Quicksilver from the Avengers movies, but it's going to go in. The show they said is going to go into her past, so I think we're going to get two Quicksilvers. I think uh, I think you might get some mutant talk. I think they might do the reverse of No More Mutants. I think Wanda's going to feel very alone, and she's going to want more people around her like her. And so maybe she activates something in people's genes. I don't know. That's my like long shot into the dark. Um, and I don't know. I think what's really great about the show is like we can only speculate like how this show is going to open. We can't really. There's a lot we don't know.
We need a
And
taste.
huh?
We need a taste.
Yeah, we just need a thing. So I mean, I'm just very excited to see how they do this. The first reviews are that it's great, that it's completely different from Marvel. I know a lot of people say Marvel does the same stuff. I think you and I have talked about this before. I think that that is true in that they have a brand. Things look a certain way, they feel a certain way. But Ant-Man is certainly not the same movie as Captain America: The Winter Soldier. You know what I mean? And so, like Doctor Strange, a little bit of an origin story kind of thing, but still a good movie in its own right. Not the best, but that is nowhere near the same as Thor Ragnarok, even though they deal with the same things. So I think that Marvel still has a lot in its canon, and I think it's about to get really fucking weird in a very, very cool way.
Agreed. Yeah, I honestly feel like we're gonna see a lot of special guests in ways that we've never seen Marvel pull it off. Because
Mm.
series, they can just throw random characters in there. I wouldn't be surprised if we get a small appearance from Renner in some way. I
You
would
think
hope for it.
Hawkeye?
Yeah, I think. I
He
mean,
has he
preparing
has a lot of connection with
yeah,
her.
and it would prepare him for his series too. So I think throw
Wow,
him in for an episode.
that's it. Who else do you think?
Man, basing it off of the shows coming out, I feel like best route to do it because you can kind of set up the characters. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who would fit in this, but that's rough. Yeah. Um,
Do you think we might see any new characters, like any new? Because we have Monica Rambeau, who again becomes Captain Marvel at some point. Do you think there's a chance we see anybody else?
Possibly. Um, I don't know if it'll be someone. I don't think it'll be in a way that they're going to be canonically like part of
Mm-hmm.
the universe in that way. I think there'll either be someone we've heard about in passing, just
Mm-hmm.
kind of like the way that the Netflix shows would mention, oh, the hammer dropped here. I'm sure they'll make a mention of someone's object
Yeah,
that we don't know of yet. Wouldn't be surprised if Loki's scepter makes mention because I still don't know how that's going to connect into all of this.
You think we get a mention of Jane Foster and her illness through Darcy?
Possibly, yeah, because we need to find some information out that connects her to this. I
Jane
feel like
Foster, for those of you who don't know, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Brandon,
that's good.
is she's the female Thor. She is, of course, Thor's ex-girlfriend from the last two movies, Natalie Portman. And it was a great surprise to see her in Endgame as well. She's so fucking talented and deserves this movie completely. But she does in the comics get cancer, and then the powers of Thor are bestowed onto her. And I believe I think, I can't remember because it's been a while, but I think using the powers hurts her, right? Or they keep her alive or something. I don't remember. It's a very interesting story. I'm sure that I think they're going to mention it. What were you going to say? That it has to tie her in?
Yeah, I think they have to because they have to explain where she's been. They have to
Mm.
connect it to what Jane's been doing. I think it would be good to just make like a quick mention. And then
Mm.
in that regard, you have Randall Park.
Yeah.
So there's you could play some, have some fun there too. He was in Ant-Man too, right?
Yeah, and Ant-Man 1. I think he's going to play a bigger role in this new like Shield. I think he's going to I think it's still going to be Fury, Maria Hill. I think Randall Park is coming up the ranks there. I think he's going to have a lot more. Um, I think we see Strange. I don't think you're getting out this series without seeing Strange at least once or a mention of him. I do believe we'll get post-credit scenes, maybe at the end of each episode or something, or at the end of the series like we did with Mando. Um, but yeah, I think for sure you're going to see or hear a mention of Jane Foster. I think you're going to hear a mention of or see Doctor Strange. And I mean, I'm interested to see who's directing the episodes as well, just because we have over here, we were talking about Matt Shockman, who has directed many things that people love, including The Great, which is that show about, I think it's Catherine the Great. It's Always Sunny, he's directed, Fargo, and Game of Thrones. One of the things you always hear about, that I've not always, but you've been hearing about WandaVision, is that it's surprisingly very funny. I think you're going to get that from It's Always Sunny. Fargo, I hear I haven't seen it personally, but I hear it has its moments of humor and it's done very well. And as we all know, Game of Thrones, besides those battle sequences, one of the reasons why that show was great was because, and this has more to do with writing, but of course, if you have experience on the show, uh, executing surprises, executing dramatic moments that are very tense. I think you're going to get those. I think we're going to get a little scary with Wanda. I think that power is scary, not only to other people, but to herself as well. She really hasn't explored the full extent of her abilities. And so I think we're going to get that. Um, but yeah, I think it's just going to be crazy. That's it. It's going to be like nothing we've seen before.
Oh, definitely. I actually have one wild speculation that I have no evidence to back up for why I think this is going to happen.
Thanos definitely fucked Aunt May.
Oh, but yeah, most definitely right up. I think there's going to be a musical number sequence in this series.
Oh, I mean, I don't think that's that far fetched, actually.
Yeah, because
If
we
it's
have
like based
about
off those old shows,
definitely.
at
Yeah.
least a dance.
Yeah, I want to see Catherine Hahn just throw it down because she kills it on Central Park on Apple Plus.
Oh, you've seen that show?
Yes,
Okay.
she's great. So I think that's my main argument. So I think she's gonna throw in some music in there, and I think they'll introduce that into the MCU.
There are some things like Central Park that I'm like, nobody watches that. And then you'll be like, oh, I watch Central Park.
Watch everything.
Like like you'll be like watching like an ad, like you'll see an ad for an Amazon Prime show, and I'm like, who's watching that? And I know people watch like The Boys,
Yeah,
but like when you see something else, you're like, nobody watches that, and you're like,
it's
I watch.
usually me.
Yeah, it's usually. Well, I mean, I think that's it. I don't think there's anything else to catch up on. I think as far as predictions for the wider universe, I think there's no way if she rips the space-time continuum. That's how you get Deadpool. You know, he already had like a teleporting thing at the end of Deadpool 2 where he got to like move in time, so I'm sure that wouldn't limit him to time and space. Um, I would say this is how you're going to get mutants to some effect, and it's also going to be how we get multiple Spider-Men. Um, into the it's Spider-Man into the Wider-Verse, because it seems like it's besides Jamie Foxx there's and Zendaya there's very few people of color. I mean, Toby's white, Andrew's white. Um, but I think actually because of this, we're in Spider-Man 3. I will say, just because it had such an effect on Garfield's character and Toby's character, we are going to see Uncle Ben in the MCU. I think we're officially going to get that. Um, and my vote, as always, is for Adam Scott to play Uncle Ben. I think he would be a
Perfect.
great. I think he would be a great Uncle Ben, especially if the theory is true that Spider-Man always references movies in the MCU because he used to watch them with his Uncle Ben. And I don't know if you remember, but in Spider-Man Far From Home, Mysterio's fucking with him and he takes him to Queens and he punches him through a movie theater. And I
Mm.
don't know if that's because Mysterio always wanted to be an actor or if it's because it has to do with Spider-Man's childhood, or Night Monkey's childhood. Is the European Spider-Man, but I think you're gonna get that. But anyway, this is awesome, so much fun. Uh, I'm sorry for all the uhs that I dropped for anybody painfully listening, and this was just our first time doing it, and we wanted to just do something fun for everybody. Hopefully, it's fun and hopefully it's informative. I'd like to do one mid-season if you're down, and then after, right after the maybe we could do like a mid-season check-in and then like a 5-minute video of us freaking out um, before the season finale, and then a post-season finale, because I think we're gonna have to talk a lot
Oh,
about this.
so
Uh,
much. It's prep for the whole phase 4 of
yeah,
go.
I mean, and we already know so many things about Phase 4. So I think for Rue Rivera and Brandon, or for Brandon Guerrero, I'm Rue Rivera.
I'm Brandon Guerrero.
Good night, good luck, uh, Excelsior,
And cheers.
and cheer and cheers. This is just water.
This is just water too.
Yeah, okay. Okay. And cheers. And if you have any questions, comments, please comment and share the video if you enjoyed it. If not, whatever. I think we should keep doing these. This is a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, and read this. Just
And
read it.
read Vision by Tom King.
Let's do it.
If you don't cry, you'll want to cry, and yeah, at least you'll leave with a very good comic. But all right, I think that's cool. I'm gonna stop the recording, and then we can just hang out for a little bit. All right, there.